Hello. So today was tie-break matches, and now we have all four qualifiers. So Dominguez won against Wenceslas, and Rapport won against Wojtaszek. And we will consider what happened, how it was happened. So, as I see that Rapport won first game with black, Ola. And vamos a considerar esta partida. Todavía yo mismo no vi la d4, d6, knight f3. So d6 is invitation to, I don't know what exactly, probably Pierce defense, probably Philidor defense. For example, after e4, black can play knight f6, knight c3 to play g6. This is Pierce defense. This is Philidor defense. Also, after knight f6, white can try to play f3 with the idea to play c4 and next move and Zamish system, something like this. But okay, so e4 is possible. Knight f3 was choice of Radek Wojtaszek. Knight f6, c4, g6. Usually Radek is playing system knight c3 here. And after bishop g7, e4, castle, bishop e2, e5, castle. And for example, in this line before he likes to play, he won a very good game against expert of King's Indian, Timur Rajabu. Okay, I don't know what was plan of Rapport. Probably he prepared to play bishop f5 here. It's also option, but I don't know. This was plan of Rapport, or he prepared something in classical King's Indian. I have no idea, but anyway, g3 played Wojtaszek. Bishop g7, bishop g2, castle, castle, c6. This move order also possible to play knight e4 to prepare f5. I tried this line with black, but without special successes. c6 I also played this line, and I played this against Anatoly Karpov with black. So after knight c3, queen b6, Anatoly played c5. I took on c5. After knight a4, I played queen b5. After knight takes c5, knight a6. It's complicated game. It's a4, queen b6, a5, queen b5. Knight takes, queen takes e6. It was in Las Palmas, 1996. This game ended to draw after complicated fight. And also important idea of queen b6 that after b3, black has e5 option. It gives some tactical possibilities. For example, takes twice, it's very risky because queen a5, double attack. So, of course, white can try to play e3. It's an interesting game. Yes, c6 is very solid, but instead of queen b6, according to theory, more solid lines are bishop f5, for example, knight bd7, and queen a5 as well. Queen a5 I played against Karpov as well and won in Kabdah. So, but after queen b6, Radek didn't play c5 and also not b3. e4 is possible, but e4 black has contraplay after bishop g4 with idea knight fd7. So this is more or less idea of this system. Oh, of course, it's not so simple as well. But for example, after h3, bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, knight fd7. If knight e2, black has c5. And if d5, knight e5 is very strong. If d takes c5, knight takes c5, so this position, it's quite good. Добрый вечер. Good evening. Hola. So, of course, after bishop g4, white can play something without h3, maybe b3, it's possible. If knight fd7, bishop e3 now, so white has white choice, of course. But okay, so h3 played Radek and queen a6, this is a theoretical position. So black wants to play b5, b3. Another option, knight d2 here, for example, and what black will do, probably bishop e6, idea to, if b3, black has d5. If d5, c takes d5, c takes d5, bishop d7. Sorry, phone call suddenly. Just a moment. Just a moment. I'm very sorry. Алло. Добрий вечір. Я перепрошую, я зараз зайнятий, бо я веду передачу, так що я реально не можу розмовляти. Ну, то десь буде тривати 1,5 години, так що якщо ти не спиш, то я тобі передзвоню. Добре, як закінчу, то передзвоню. I'm here. It's famous song. Okay, but now I'm here, I'm concentrated on chess. It was my father, by the way. So bishop d7 and totally different type of position. So white has pawn on d5, some space advantage. But I don't know, we can consider this. For example, b3, it's possible. To play. So my plan is to play bishop b2. So rook c8, for example, bishop b2, bishop e8, something like this, to prepare knight bd7. Knight takes d5, no, knight takes d5, knight takes d5, and knight takes e7. Immediately you mean knight takes d5. Hardly it works. Knight, but okay, it's not so obvious question. So white has choice. So knight c7 is possible, but also possible to consider other moves. For example, knight takes e7 can be considered at the knight. Have feeling it needs to be. I have feelings that it's quite for black. Knight takes e5, but maybe with precise play, especially with help of it's possible to play. But okay, for example, h8, knight c4, my bishop f4, bishop h6. So knight is possible move by the way. I don't know what's okay. Maybe e5 is possible. E5, but d5. After c takes d5, I can take this pawn. Also possible. So knight possible. So this reflects Radek d5. This is theory, and I remember there is some theoretical line with CB, CB, A4, B4, A5, something like this. What conclusion? Don't know. Maybe. Тут щось більше. Що? Мікрофон. Мікрофон виключити. Now good, каже, правда. So I am here again, and I want to continue, but if there is everybody who is ready to listen me. Hi. Is it everything okay with sound, with works? Okay, so I just want to explain that after knight bd7, this move order, knight c3, e5, e4, c6, h3, queen b6. And queen b6 line here, it's one of favorite lines from Garry Kasparov. He played many games after queen b6, and for example c5 was d takes c5, this knight e8, and now Hübner against Kasparov played bishop g5. It was Hübner Kasparov, and Hübner won after complicated battle. It was Dortmund 1992. And another important game for this variation was Shirov Kasparov with e6 and knight g5, knight e5, f4, knight f7, knight takes f7, bishop d4 check, king h2, rook takes a7, f5. And white has excellent compensation for the sacrificed pawn. Game ended with draw after very interesting game. But okay, so today we have totally different opponents and different variations. So c6, queen b6, h3, queen a6, b3, b5, takes. So he didn't take. a4 was possible. After b4, probably also knight a2 is possible to consider, by the way. I don't know how strong it is, but it's also possible. But okay, I'm not sure that Radek was really well prepared against line with queen b6, queen a6. Knight d2, b takes c4, knight takes c4, bishop b7. Now both has more or less solid position. Black plans to play knight bd7 and then probably c5. Bishop b2 natural move, not only, of course, white has other moves. For example, e4 can be considered with idea to develop bishop on e3, so it's also possible. But okay, bishop b2, knight bd7, and now e4. So it's not so clear for me. So if to play e4 in general, probably it's more precise do it immediately, because after e4, if black plays knight bd7, obviously that bishop b2 is not only move, probably not the most active move. So white has some other moves. Even e5 can be considered, probably bishop e3, probably rook e1 with idea bishop f1 somewhere. Okay, if black has something else instead of e4, I don't know, maybe c5 is possible. It's sharp but logical move, but big question it really works. For example, e5 it's necessary to consider. After bishop takes g2, e takes f6. Also, okay, I don't know. So bishop takes f1, f takes g7, it's surely bad for black. So bishop takes f6, king takes g2, and black is pieced down, and 2 pawns only. After c takes d4, knight d5 is coming. After bishop takes d4, bishop b2 is coming. So it looks like not enough for black. So what else if not bishop takes g2? If, for example, knight d7 or d takes e5, d takes e5, this type of position looks like better for black. But now after bishop takes g2, of course, e takes f6 not so strong, because bishop takes f6 and take on c3, but just king takes g2, and white has better pawn structure, and black knight has no good square. So after knight d7, f4. So e4 looks like more aggressive attempt for me. Okay, d5 probably it's possible to consider as well, but okay, d5, knight e5 is okay. Maybe this is not so clear for bishop takes e4, c. Although after f3, for example, maybe white is better as well, because black has tactical problems with rook on a8. Okay, so this line can be considered. Takes, bishop takes, but it looks like better for white after bishop h6, for example. So I think there are open lines for white rooks, and black knight not developed yet, so it should be better for white. So e4 is more aggressive attempt than bishop b2. If bishop b2, knight bd7, okay, he played e4, it's also possible, but rook fd8 played rapport, so he afraid e5. So rook fd8, it's just prophylactic move, and after e5. So now e5 doesn't work, and white need to do something. And Radek played queen c2. It's not only move. Rook e1 looks very logical move. Idea to prepare bishop f1 in some variation. Okay, if d5, white has many possibilities. Even e takes d5, c takes d5, knight e5 is possible, for example. It's question how strong it is. Black can play e6, or maybe knight takes e5, d takes e5, knight e4 is possible as well. Okay, after d5, white has choice. So e takes d5, it's not only move, it's possible to consider simply knight d2, for example. For example, d takes e4, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, knight takes e4, c5, for example, and now what is this? I try to understand. Probably this is good for black, however, because white has problem with bishop on b2 hanging, and but yes, maybe here it's just good for black. Yes, this is good for black now. So maybe after d5, maybe yes, maybe this is correct move. Knight e5. So if knight takes e5, d takes e5, knight e4. But here, interesting position. A lot of tactic. Okay, white can consider something like knight a4 even, for example, to prepare bishop d4. But bishop c6, it's unclear position. So knight takes e4, d takes e4, queen b1, for example. But rook d2 somewhere. Okay, so it's... Okay, anyway, white is... have safe position for, even after knight takes e4, d takes e4, queen e2. It looks like black should fight for a draw, because pawn e4 is weaker than pawn e5, although queen a5, so who knows, rook d2, for example. Again, not so clear. Bishop takes b7, also it's possible. Rook takes e2, rook takes e2, and this. Okay, but due to weakness on e5, here black is slightly better. Okay, so queen a5, maybe something else. Okay, bishop e2, rook d2, white can try queen. Okay, queen e3, rook b2, bishop takes b7, rook d8, black pieces are active. Okay, so maybe after queen a5, it's not necessary to take on e4 immediately. Maybe there are some other option, like queen e3, for example. But okay, it's a complicated game and require serious calculation. So it's not something easy, and it's not something totally clear, at least for me. Okay, maybe there are other possible, maybe even. Okay, knight a4, knight b6, I afraid. So knight b6, it's also some idea of black in this line. But okay, so queen c2 played Radek, and d5 played Rapport, and now knight e5 play. Why knight e5? It's this moment it's not clear. Knight d2 looks like more natural for me, but But what is this? My idea is simple. So if d takes e4, just take with knight and try to keep control on c5 square. And after c5, d takes c5, my bishop on b2 well protected. So what else? If black has choice, c5. c5 is possible, but after c5, e5, it's interesting by the way. It's maybe, so this also. And now it's good for black. So e5 doesn't work, so c5. And c5 is an interesting move. But what is if just d takes c5? D takes c5 looks more interesting because if d4 now, I can try knight a4 or even knight d5 as well. So I have choice. If knight takes c5, I can just take with knight. This position looks like promising for white. For example, knight takes d5, bishop takes g7, king takes g7, and now probably, okay, if e takes d5 is possible because this doesn't work. After bishop takes g2 and rook takes d2, white has queen c3 check and take. So knight d2 was an interesting alternative. If black not taken and not playing c5, white is ready for e5 or for knight e4. So it's interesting alternative because knight e5 by intuition I don't like it because it helps black to create some exchange. Somewhere knight can take from d7 to e5, and after this rook d8 works well. But okay, of course, it's important to calculate concrete variation. Also, e5, it's necessary to consider, but anyway, white has choice. Knight a4 even possible, or takes on e5 after knight takes e5, knight e4, knight a4. So I have no feelings that black is better in these complications. Okay, so we'll see what was happened. So knight e5 was choice of Radek. I don't know if it's the best or not. So take on e4. Takes. I am here. If you are interested with me, if you are interested with somebody else, I am fine, thank you, and you. So knight takes e4, bishop takes e4, rook ac8. So black is preparing c5, so his plan is more or less obvious. Or knight takes e5, d takes e5, c5, depends what white will do. So if queen c4, for example, it's possible to play take. Knight takes e5 is possible as well. So queen takes c4, if knight takes c4, bishop a6. This idea knight b6, so possible. So rook fd1. What? c5. So rapport is ready to make some exchange. So bishop takes, bishop, rook ac1 played with Tashik. Of course, d takes c5 is possible, and after d takes c5, position is very drawish. After bishop takes b2, queen takes b2, rook takes c5. So this variation, it's very, very simple, more than simple, but why I showed this, so Wojtaszek didn't play d takes c5, so this is sign that in that moment Wojtaszek estimated his position that like he is better here. because if he is not better, okay, so to make draw, it's logical decision. But okay, if he thinks that he is better, okay, so he is playing for the win. So rook ac1 he played, and queen f3. So contra-plate started. And now white cannot play d takes c5 anymore. f4? Where f4? Sorry. F4 here, okay, F4 it's very risky because it's from king, so it doesn't look like a logical idea because black can play c5 anyway, and after open line, so white king, it will be much more weak than before. No, so F4, at least I would not play. Yes, so F4 not. Okay, so rook f d1 is logical move, but okay, so if fight for advantage, knight d2 seems me like more logical attempt at knight e5. So, but Wojtaszek played, so this is more or less forced. And now rook ac1, so Wojtaszek is played for a win. So because if imagine that he is playing for a draw, and logical decision was d takes c5, and after d takes c5 position is very drawish. So rook ac1, and now different story, queen f3. So now there is something sharp, and white cannot take on c5, because after rook takes d1, and bishop b2, black just wins the piece, so white needs to do something else. Okay, white has choice, so it doesn't look like there is something terrible for white now, but bishop a1, it's very strange move. So, more logical looks to do something. Bishop h6 likes engine idea to provoke. An idea to provoke f4, but okay, but after f4, bishop g7, and after d takes c5, so now queen f3. No, queen f3, rook takes d7. No. Queen f3, rook takes d7, queen takes g3, queen g2. It's not enough. So what is? I don't understand. So bishop h6 here, f4, bishop g7, d takes c5. What is your suggestion? So black just gave the pawn, and what to do? Bishop, no, bishop, okay, bishop takes b2, rook takes d7. Any g5, okay, but it's very complicated, at least. D takes c5, c6. Okay, so it's... Okay, this is engine recommendation. So let's come back to queen f3. So bishop a1, it's... rook takes d1. After d takes c5, rook takes d1. Rook takes d1, and what? Rook takes d1. Bishop takes b2 and queen f3. Understand. This idea. Understand. Yes, so rook ac1 was quite risky move, by the way. So without risk, d takes c5, but it is draw. So in this moment, Wojtaszek was optimistic. Okay, bishop h6, f4, bishop g7. Yes, it's interesting idea to provoke f4, rook d3. Okay, so... Or maybe king h2 is possible as well to protect pawn. But okay, so with such opened king, black has counter chances. But okay, so queen f3 was played, and now okay, so uh, bishop a1. It's hardly natural move. So natural moves for white, in my opinion, it's queen d3 or rook d3. So to do something immediately with this guest, I mean queen on f3. So, for example, queen d3. What is my problem? So queen takes d3, rook takes d3. It looks like drawish somehow. For example, after rook c7. Maybe even black is slightly better because c4 is idea in some variation, but okay, it's of course white can make draw. So rook c d1, yes, c4 takes, bishop a3, it should be draw, of course. So queen d3 was logical. Another logical move is rook d3. Immediately attack, but now, okay, probably queen f5 was afraid. And there is pin on d line and also pawn h3, it's attacked, so it's not so easy to understand how white should react now. But okay, maybe queen e2 is possible because if black can just take on a3 and white cannot take on c5 because his bishop on b2 is hanging. So the most safe looks like queen d3 and position it's quite drawish after queen exchange. So bishop a1, it's strange move somehow, h5 is logical, and now queen d3 he played. Queen d3, queen takes d3, and e5 is proposition. Yes, but ah, my idea was that after d5, e4, rook d2, takes, rook takes d5, rook c4, and then rook bc2, b4, so white has enough compensation for the pawn. But unfortunately, I miss it after rook d2, bishop h6. This I miss it in my calculation. Okay, so it's important. But okay, probably white has something else. Not so easy because of this trick. Yes, suddenly d5 doesn't work. Yes, rook c4, it's logical, but yes, maybe this is the best, by the way. To prepare b4 in some moments, so it should be draw. If e takes d4, b4. And if bishop f8, even rook d4 is possible, probably. Okay, we'll check. So e takes d4, b4, bishop f8. Rook d4, also c takes d4 and d3. It's very unpleasant. So it doesn't work. So now rook c1, d2, and bishop takes b4. So white need to play something else. Bishop takes d4, it doesn't work as well because so bishop b takes c5 maybe simply. Okay, so so rook c4. It's enough for draw. So queen d3 was logical idea, but okay, is it any problem with Twitch? No, better now. Okay, so queen d3 was logical. Rook d3, okay, rook d3, queen f5. Not so clear what to do, but but anyway, bishop a1. It's a strange move. So bishop a1, and now he played queen d3, takes, and h4. So what is this? So I'm trying to understand at least something. It's not so easy. Radek took on h4. So now it's white bishop is protected, and if white agree for draw, very logical looks to play d5. So what black can do? Bishop takes a1, rook takes a1, takes c4. So, okay, this endgame, black is slightly better, but it should be drawish. After b takes c4, rook takes c4, rook a d1, for example. So rook c d8, no, rook c d8, I'll just play this. And I don't think that this is any dangerous, because after e6, d6, if even black will win d6 pawn, white will attack c5 pawn. Okay, maybe rook d6 also. But now white has trick, king f2 and e6 not possible because of this, and e7. And black has no rook e3 anymore. So if not e6, if for example king f8, king e2, and white rook is protected. Okay, so d5 is possible. Black is slightly better, but nothing special. Also maybe g4 is possible. But g takes h4, took Radek. Okay, maybe it's not a bad as well. So rook d5. So black trying to keep tension. So and now if rook c4, rook c d8, it's not so pleasant. This idea to take on d4 with pawn. So, and Radek played b4. Let's try if this is the best choice. It's not so obvious. It looks like the best choice here is rook e3, bishop h6. Unfortunately. Again, so many times in this game, white has problem with bishop h6 in variation. Rook c4, rook c d8, it's unpleasant. And next will be c takes d4. So it's very difficult to defend somehow against rook c d8. So rook d d1, again rook c d8. And white cannot take anything. So rook d5 is really strong move. Probably Radek missed this when he played g takes h4. So, rook d d1, and now rook e1. Maybe this is possible. C takes d4, rook takes e7, and d pawn is not so dangerous. Yes, maybe rook d d1 is the best idea here. You are right. But what about bishop? Bishop takes d4, rook takes d4, important. So this is probably okay. Now rook e1, but okay, this is wins the piece. So bishop takes, yes, rook takes d1 was a good move, but important to see resource rook e1. So probably because this is rapid, so not so much time. Opponents had. So after rook d1, it looks like drawish. Okay, black can play, for example, e6, d takes c5, and draw. But Wojtaszek played b4, c4. b4 is very risky move by positional reasons. Now, I don't know, probably he should play rook dd1, try to defend d4 pawn at least. But he played rook a3, he gave pawn d4, and now c3, extremely dangerous passed pawn. If rook c2, rook d2 is winning, so rook takes e7, c2. So white is in big dangers. King f1, only move because rook d1 is a threat. Rook takes b4. Now rook b1 is threat. But okay, it's a big question if black is winning here. For example, if I play something like this, why I should lose this position. Pawn is attacked. If black just defend pawn with rook b2 or rook bc4, I play a4 and I think it's draw. Rook b1, yes, it's possible, but after rook b1 I play just this and I don't see why it should be losing for white. Well, unpleasant somehow, but it looks like draw is very likely result in this position. Because white will push a4, a5 and somewhere king e2. With 30 seconds. So he had 30 seconds, yes. Okay, 30 seconds, yes, I understand. Agree. So king e2 he played, rook takes h4. Now, is this? Anyway, it looks like something like drawish, but unpleasant for practical game. f3. Okay, f3 looks maybe king e2, but after king e2, black can... Yes, now it's practical chances. So after rook e2 was more easy draw. So here... But by the way, it's question if black can do something after, for example, this. So my idea is simple, to take c2 pawn as soon as possible. So pawns endgame, maybe pawns endgame, it's dangerous. For example, there's this and king g7, and if I take king h6, d3, g5, e4, but okay, so we can try to check it. So maybe this is draw. Looks like draw. But okay, I agree that if have only 30 seconds in clock, calculate such variations not easy. So king d2 he played, rook f4, f3 or f3, it's positionally very bad move. So because now h3 pawn is very weak, but okay, so this position in time trouble already very hard to defend. a4, king h6, rook a3, rook a2. By the way, a5 looks more natural. King f4, a6, probably. White still can survive here. So king f4, a6. But manage, yeah, but rook d3, yes, now it's problem, for example, this. If king e2, rook d8, and it's losing after rook d3, black can just take and just to play rook a8. So king e3 only move. Okay, maybe, but it's not easy to play such a move under many checks. So rook a2. G5. So nice finish. It's mate. So victory for Rapport. And in game second, he need only draw with white. So we will check how he reached this goal. So Sicilian, d4, queen takes d4. It's theoretical line. Another move is knight f6 here. A lot of theory. One of variation is e5, for example, and black has choice between c takes d4 as possible with idea if e takes f6, queen a5 check, or if queen a5, knight c3, knight d5 or knight e4, rook b1. Now it's very interesting. It's idea of another Polish grandmaster, Jan Krzysztof Duda, played this. Only I don't remember exactly after knight d5 or after knight e4 here. Maybe after knight d5 at this moment. I don't remember exactly. And according to modern theory, c takes d4 is the safest choice for black. But after knight f6, of course, white can play just castle or just play knight c3, c takes d4, queen takes d4, this type of positions. C takes d4, a6, takes c4. So idea of knight f6 was to provoke knight c3 and to stop c4 idea at all. Now also there is theory after e5, queen d3, b5, knight a3, something like this. Yes, also my game against Gary and against Rublevsky with black. So it's theoretic queen b6 and then queen b7. It's well-known theory. So knight f6, knight bishop g5, e6. Yes, this is my game against Kasparov. Gary played h6, which wasn't very good. So e6, knight c3, h6, bishop h4, bishop e7. And of course, in different situation, Rapport probably would play something like castle and then rook a d1, rook f e1 to play more complex game. But now he needs draw, so e5 it's logical choice. He wants just simplified position. Castle, king c6, king c2, so b5. Radek looking for contraplay, but rook e1. B takes c4 is possible, but not so big chances for win this position. For example, rook d4 is possible. White wants to take after king c5, even bishop takes f6 is possible. If bishop takes f6, rook d7, so it's hard to believe that black has real chances for win now, because white has enough compensation for the pawn. Okay, probably after king c5, white has some other moves as well. I like, for example, this idea if king takes d4, bishop f2 mate. Oh, this is cooperative mate, of course, but like idea. Or okay, after f3, black can play rook d8 probably. So maybe with this idea f4 more precise. My idea after rook d8 to have rook e5 check. And after king takes d4, bishop f2 mate, or knight e2. It's also not so bad. Okay, so this is just for fun. e5, here e5, no, here e5, it's totally anti-positional move, so after simple queen d3, so, okay, it's possible to play g5, okay, but bishop g3, okay, but it's not a type of position which I like for black, especially they lost tempi, e5, e6 and later e5, so white has a clear plan, knight d2, f3, bishop f2, so it should be better for white. But okay, so after rook e1, he play rook h d8 and rapport. Even if he plays for draw, he's looking for tactic, knight d5. So probably for black was reasonable to play something else like g5, for example, and only after bishop g3 to play rook d8. Okay, position is approximately equal. But after rook d8, knight d5, and now it's obvious that only white can play for a win, so black has no chances to win this position. So knight f6, g takes f6, rook takes. Oh, white has another move. So bishop takes f6 is totally possible. White has no any risk here. For example, rook d1, rook d1. After bishop takes f2, even bishop d4 is possible if white wants to draw. But it's not necessary. Okay, but rook takes d8, rook takes d8. C takes b5 he played. A takes b5, rook e4. So what is idea? So white wants just take on f6, but if rook g8, g4 is possible. Bishop takes f6 immediately is possible as well, but probably rook g8. Yes, rook e2, rook e4. I understand this idea to play g4 after rook g8. So this is my explanation. And if f5 now, white has many options. Even rook takes e6 is possible, and bishop takes d8. It's totally enough for draw. Also, of course, bishop takes d8 and f3 is possible. So rook e4, it's I like style g4 h5. Okay, it's interesting, but there are okay, so maybe interesting. I wanted to say h3 takes, but after h3 takes, probably rook h8 is possible. Still some tension on the board. Of course, it should be drawish anyway. So, for example, this rook f. Okay, rook f4, for example. Yes, rook e2 is possible instead of rook e4. Yes, I understand. Totally agree. So rook e2, f3, and very solid position. Okay, it's possible also start with f3 here, and only if rook g8 to play rook e2. Yes, so okay, maybe after rook e4, maybe you are right that rook g8, if g4 h5 was the best practical chance for black in this position. But Radek played rook d5 and now a4. So white is trying to exchange pawns. So it's interesting strategy if you are fighting for the draw, but okay. Of course, it was possible to play f3. f5 played Radek, probably rook h5. It's interesting idea here. To prepare f5, if bishop takes f6, rook takes h2, and also g2 is hanging, so it's still some fight, so not so easy for white. Okay, maybe bishop a takes b5, king takes b5, bishop g3, if f5, rook h4, so it's hard to believe that black can really play this position for a win. Okay, so f5 takes, rook e2. So rook e4, it's another idea to exchange pawns. And now, okay, so black is even slightly better, but it doesn't look serious. Doesn't look like serious winning chances. e5, bishop g1, g4, bishop f2. So very creative play for Rapport, even if he wants to reach draw. So he sacrificed pawn and rook d2. He caught black rook for exchange and bishop on h2 in a little bit strange positions. King c4. White is pawn down, but all black pawns are in the dark squares. In bishop endgame, it's enough for draw. So if king b3, probably king d3 and king e4 is enough. Okay, also we can try to consider this line. Okay, maybe just king c1, but after king c1, e4 somewhere it's possible. Also bishop a3 also maybe enough. With idea king d3, if f5 and h5, so king will go to g2 and stop h1. Why not bishop e1 and bishop c3, in which instead of bishop f2, bishop e1, yes, it's totally possible, but only bishop f2 is more forcing idea. But yes, bishop e1, bishop c3, it's totally enough for draw. You are right. Probably he afraid that after bishop e3, rook can be passive, but it sounds like draw. But okay, probably rook endgame is drawish. So. And e4 played Wojtaszek, probably he has no real chances in this bishop endgame. And agreed for draw. Everything is protected. For example, I think this pawn endgame can be draw even without e4 pawn. If, for example, if image, of course, if white has control on position, for example, if image this, for example, this, I mean, of course, king f4 is winning, but I think if this position, if black to move, it is draw. Yes, it looks like draw. Only if black to move, of course, because of positions. Quite standard method of defense, which is useful to know. But okay, so in the game, Rapport didn't need this. So victory for Rapport, and now we will consider match between Dominguez and So. So d takes c4. We remember that e4 b5 played Dominguez in this tournament, and after a4 c6 takes knight c3 queen b6. It was game between So and Dominguez in first round. Something like this. So now So choose another line, knight f3. E3 is possible immediately, but after e3, black has option e5. And after bishop c4, knight c6, knight f3, e4, knight d2. Queen g5 is possible, or f5 is possible as well. If queen b3, knight h6. So knight f3 idea to prevent e5 at all. So knight f6, e3. Now bishop g4. It's a line which likes very much Oleg Romanich, my neighbor, with black. So but e6, a6, classical queen's gambit accepted. Now many moves is possible. Bishop b3, bishop d3, b3, d takes c5, bishop takes c5, queen takes d8. If queen e2, the main recommendation of theory is knight c6. And if e4, b5. According to theory, black is okay. After e5, b takes c4, e takes f6, queen d3, something like this. Variation are quite complicated, but conclusion that this is okay for black. So, queen takes d8, rook d1. In general, white is not hardly with rook d1, so more popular line here is bishop e2, often king e7, knight bd2, something like this. Rook d1 played so, and Dominguez immediately exchange pair of rooks, knight c3, knight d7. So solid position for black. And important that after knight g5, for example, king e8 is better. King e7 somewhere can be risky because of idea knight e4, for example, takes, bishop goes somewhere, b3 and bishop a3, it's coming. And very unpleasant for black. Okay, this is just illustrative variation, but it's important to know this idea, this actual in many position of this variation. So knight d4 he played, king e8 against. Now king e7 looks like logical alternative. I don't know why he preferred king e8. But so king e7, if knight b3, probably if king e7 now after knight d4, white has another typical idea, knight a5, and then probably knight c4. Okay, I'm not sure how strong this idea exactly in this moment, because black has knight b6, for example, this idea bishop b4. So probably it's nothing special. I hope with stream everything is okay and everybody hear me well. Can somebody confirm that my conclusion? Yes, okay. So king e8, so knight b3, bishop e7. So Lanier prepared save square for his bishop. And I need to admit that Lanier is big expert of this endgame, and he played many games with black after exchange of queens, and I don't remember if he lost at least one game in this variation. Maybe I'm not right, but I don't remember. So usually he has a good results. Also in this game, it doesn't look that white has some advantage before knight d7. b5 doesn't work because black can just take on b5, and rook c2 check is important. If king goes somewhere, bishop c6. Nothing for white. So king e1, king e7, king d2. Looks like drawish. So I'm curious if it was necessary to play till move 40. Is such stupid rule valid for rapid as well or not? He played till move 42. See. And only here agreed to a draw. Okay, so and with white, Dominguez won, and he won the match as well. We'll see how this happens. So knight f6. Wensley saw in white his opponent to knight g5, sharp lines. but Dominguez plays solid, d3, bishop c5. Shirov played h6, as we remember, against Dominguez, and Dominguez won. Very nice game in style of King's Gambit, Kizeritsky variation. But now bishop c5, castle, castle. Okay, so castle not necessary for both, so black can try to play d6 now, and then a6, bishop a7. In some variation, it's a possible idea h6, g5 attack without castle, especially if white will play bishop g5, h6, g5, then h5. So, like in a famous game, Knorre-Chigorin. So Knorre-Chigorin was this. If somebody doesn't know this, h takes g3. Okay, queen e7 probably stronger, but something like this was played. And white cannot avoid the mates. Game by Mikhail Chigorin, but of course now nobody will play with white in such style, especially in level of grandmasters. After d6, okay, so white can play c3, for example, a4, many moves. C3 is the most popular. Okay, so castle, castle, h3, d6, c3, and now principal choice for black to play a5 or to play a6. So both is totally possible. Choice of Wensley was a5, rook e1, bishop e7, bishop b5. So they played something like this already. So bishop a7, knight d2, knight e7, d4, bishop h4. Okay, now totally normal position for both. Black can play c6, for example, to prepare bishop c7, queen c7, sorry, and rook a d8, something like this. It looks like normal plan, but so preparing some action in king's flank. Knight takes e5 immediately doesn't work, because after d takes e5 and e takes d4 looks like black is fine, although it's possible to check. Knight f3 is idea, knight h5. And what is this? Maybe d takes c3, it's possible, just ignore it. Because after knight g5, h6, if takes, and if queen takes g6, bishop takes f2 is counts, something like this. But okay, Dominguez played as solid as possible, knight f1, knight f4, knight g3, c6, bishop c2. So very solid game, and but white has some advantage. I remember they played between each other in the main tournament. Somewhere e takes d4 was played, knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, and f5, but I don't remember in which moment. I commented this game for you, but okay, so it was different idea used. But e takes d4 and bishop takes d4. So utilize that ideas. But now queen d7, so queen d7, it's obvious threat because bishop takes h3, knight f5, Dominguez defended against this threat, f6, bishop e3, so white, and d takes e5. So endgame looks more pleasant for white. I mean, after d takes e5, queen takes d7, bishop takes d7, because white can play rook d1 immediately and penetrate with knight on d6. So it looks like more pleasant for white at least. But so is looking for contraplay. But knight g5 now. So white knights are very active. After bishop takes e3, f takes e3, suddenly black cannot save his knight from f4. And also d6 pawn is hanging, so it's not so pleasant. d5, okay, maybe it's only move, but after d5 it's dangerous because in some moment white can take on d5 and bishop will attack h7 square. This is can be dangerous for health of black king. So knight e6, natural move, queen takes e6, rook. Also important factors that obviously main fight now is on the center and queens and king's flank. So rook on a7, it's a little bit far from the main territory of fight. Queen g4. Because of this, looks like white is better. Also, g3 somewhere it's threat. Okay, not now, so because black has h5. So maybe was logical to consider something like this, with idea if g3 to play h5. But it's this line it's not so convincing because, for example, white can play queen d1, knight h3 check, king g2, and also h5 pawn is hanging. Also knight f4, so this king somewhere, d takes e4. So this is nice for black, for example. But okay, surely this line is not forcing after rook a8, so white can play any moves like rook a1, for example. So white has quite a wide choice because black has no real threats. So queen f6 played Wensley, so rook d1, h5. Another very risky move because this is move from the king. So alternative looks like rook a8, the most logical, or maybe b5 with idea to utilize rook via f7 square. So it's logical moves, but of course position is quite concrete, so we can consider what white can do. g3 h5, but g3 h5 it's never clear because queen f3, for example, knight h3, king h2, so maybe it's totally possible. h5 looks like principle, but queen f3, knight h3, king h2. It looks like black king is in more danger than white ones. King h2 is bad, but how black can utilize f2 pawn now, I don't see. King g2, I didn't want to play because probably knight f4 is possible. I am not sure as it works, but at least like idea. If knight moving, queen h4 checks. Because of this, I played king h2. Knight is hanging, so, and also pawn h5 is hanging. So couple moves back, king h2, but where? So this line, you mean? Here king h2, yes, here knight is f2, but okay, it's also far from clear. Maybe even this motive might have. Or more simple, e takes d5 is possible if c takes d5, queen takes g6, and knight e7. So this position very sharp and require to calculate such tactical possibilities. H. So he didn't want to wait, so he played h5 himself. Queen f3, queen g5, queen g3. So Dominguez already played this idea in game against So, but it was an unlucky idea because he missed rook f2 in some moment and he lost. But now it's different story that black cannot take on g3 because after the f takes g3, knight is attacked and after knight e6, white is totally winning with pawn up and much better position. And if d takes e4, okay, white has very pleasant choice. So after bishop takes e4, it's very close to win, but even stronger looks just take, and bishop takes e4 now. Knight is hanging and rook is out of play. Rook a7 is out of play, so this position is totally winning for white. For example, rook f6, f takes, immediately white win material. Knight takes e5, rook d8 is made. If rook e6, bishop f5, this is finished. So queen takes g3, it's totally impossible. So queen f6 played Wensley. King h2, prophylactic move. What is the idea? Okay, just prophylactic move to avoid knight takes h3 with check in some moment probably. Or maybe to prepare queen e3 also, because immediately if queen e3, black has something like this. If g3, knight takes h3 checks. So maybe this idea of king h2. Okay, so logical move, by the way. Rook a e8 played Wensley to avoid also queen e3. Now queen f3. And white defended h3 pawn, and they are ready to play g3 and attack black knight. I don't know if black has defense. Okay, it doesn't look like totally hopeless for black. For example, queen g5 is possible. And after g3, okay, maybe this d takes e4, I wanted to say. If bishop takes e4, rook takes f5, so it's some kind of compensation. But instead of bishop takes e4, white can take with queen, and I cannot propose anything good for black here. So queen f3. h4 maybe it's possible for black, but anyway, after h4, white can play g3, fg, ag, and black has very serious problem, because if knight moving, queen h5 check, and e takes d5, it's obviously winning for black. So it's now everything in favor of white. So knight h4, so trying to create contraplay, but we can see that okay, white rooks are much more active than black rooks in open positions. So this is positional factor, but in sharp position, position if you calculate variation, such factors can be really important as well. So we can see this e takes d5. So e5 pawn is hanging. So if c takes d5, rook takes e5. So if knight takes d5, okay, it's probably not losing immediately, but surely unpleasant position for black. So probably, okay, it was the best choice probably for black to keep on the game, but white has many ideas. Queen g3, it's possible. For rook e4, also possible to consider. Queen d3 is queen d3, knight f6 only move, but anyway, rook takes e5, of course, knight g4 is idea. Although Even this, okay, now also rook d8 is necessary. Knight g4 I don't know, because king g1, by the way. If queen takes f2, check king h1 and move mate on h7 is hanging, and rook takes h5 as well. But after rook takes e5, probably rook a8 gives some contraplay to black. I don't know how strong this kind of contraplay, but maybe because after queen takes d8. Knight g4 check. Also, what is this? Let's try to check. So this, and now king g1. So my idea is that after rook takes d8, I have rook takes h5. So this I prepared. So queen takes d8, knight g4, king g1. If queen takes f2, just queen takes f2 is possible now. And after king h1, just take the rook, and everything under control, more or less. Okay, so after knight g4, so rook d8, knight g4 immediately it's bad because king g1. So rook d8, it's somehow a problem with white. And if queen takes d8, knight g4. So if king g1, queen takes f2, and knight takes e5. If king h1, probably this is possible. As I explained, rook takes d8 doesn't work because rook takes h5. So, but knight takes f2 is possible. So if king h2, knight g4 at least. If this never black can take on d8 because rook takes h5, as I already explained. But knight takes h3, and it looks like perpetual check after g takes h3. If king h2, knight g5 is possible. So g takes h3, and black has perpetual check after queen g3. At least, but probably as maximum as well. Okay, so it was possible. Knight takes d5, and it was probably best try for Wensley, but objectively position should be better for white. For example, queen d3, knight f6 instead of rook takes e5. It's possible to play something more solid like king g1, for example. So certainly this position is better for white, but black still on the game after e4. But Wensley didn't take on d5, he took on g2 and queen d3. Mate in threat, and e4 is more or less forced. Queen f4, it's nothing because white is just taking, and king h1, and because of mate threat, black has no tempi for rook f3. So e4 played, rook takes e4. But now he played queen takes f2. Maybe knight f4 was possible. Of course, queen takes f2. Queen takes f2 he played. But after queen takes f2 he lost. Okay, maybe knight f4 was possible, by the way. And the situation's not so clear. Because after rook f4, queen takes f4 with check. So, what white can do? Queen e3. Queen e3. Queen e3, c takes d5. And rook takes d5, knight takes d5. Queen is bad situated. So, queen f3 maybe. Maybe queen f3. Queen f3, it's interesting. Because knight h3 never possible. Queen takes f8, rook takes h4. Knight takes d5. Again, okay, this line I'm not totally sure that white will win this. Exchange up, but black has chances for draw. Although probably after rook b1, white should win this. So it's possible queen f3. But okay, instead of knight takes g2. What do you mean? Now c takes d5 is also possible to consider. But what is this? If rook d5, if rook d5, knight, maybe rook d5. If knight, no. Now knight d5 and black is winning exchange. Queen f8 losing the piece, rook takes and rook f2 and rook c2. So rook h4, this and bishop b3. And what is this? It's difficult to understand. At the moment white is rook down, but there are many threats. Of course, this variation, you asking something instead of knight takes g2? You mean instead of knight takes g2, you want to propose another move, but which knight takes d5, I consider it, but okay, white is better. Где ладья h5? I don't understand. Knight takes d5, queen d3. Okay, so queen d3, knight f6. Okay, rook takes e5, it's maybe dubious. So, okay, but so king g1 is possible, as I explained, and white is better. Even g3 is possible here. Okay, but we can consider rook e5, rook 8 d8, and queen g3 you propose. No, queen g... queen g3. Maybe queen g3 it's possible. Yes, because if knight g4, king g1, queen rook d1, bishop d1, queen g3, rook takes h5 is your idea. Okay. Yes. Yes, maybe it works. Yes, maybe. Okay, but anyway, white has other ideas to have advantage. Okay, so knight takes g2, we are consider queen d3, e4, rook takes e4, queen instead of queen takes f2, my proposition is knight f4. So, and queen f3 I am considering. Okay, queen g3 it's possible, but black will take on g3 and then take on d5, and white is better, but black still on the game. So queen f3 I'm considering, and c takes d5 now. So rook takes d5. Okay, maybe it's not only move, but it's very strange idea. So white is rook down, but there are many threats. Difficult to believe, however, that white is playing for win here, but okay, who knows how to play with black. I'm trying to understand. Not easy, at least. Maybe just rook takes f2 check after king g3, g6. No, rook takes d5. And after rook takes b2, rook d8 check is coming. Black has this move, but okay, rook takes a5, white has winning chances. G6 immediately, yes, it's possible as well, but after g6, my idea was just play rook takes d5 and play this position. Okay, maybe king g7, so it looks like close to draw. Yes, maybe g6. So knight f4. Okay, if not play queen f. So what is white choice? Queen takes f2 is threat, so white has no time to play d takes c6 or d6, something like this. Rook f4 is not possible because queen takes f4 check. So moves candidates is queen e3, queen f3, or queen g3. Okay, queen g3, queen takes g3 and take on d5. White is better, but black has chances to draw. So we are considering queen f3. Queen e3 it's possible as well, but c takes d5 now it's possible. And white cannot take, maybe can. Maybe can take on d5. Because after this, rook takes h4, knight e3, rook takes h5, and bishop b3. And this is winning. And then f takes e3. So probably queen e3, it's really strong with this idea. If queen g5, rook g1. Also, okay, I am thinking about this. And if rook takes f4, queen d6 is my idea. King g3 also. Something really crazy. If g5, queen d4 I have. If h4, king g4 or king f3. If rook e8, queen d4. Suddenly looks like everything under control. So maybe queen e3 is the strongest move. At least. Okay, so probably white is much better here. But okay, so it was at least practical chance for Bensley to play this. But he took on f2. Of course, his hope was if rook e2, knight e1 check. Now black is winning. Rook f2, and then knight takes d3. But king h1 played Dominguez. He avoids such a cheap trick, and now suddenly game is finished for black because white has too many threats like rook e2, rook f4, and of course black cannot play rook f3 because rook e8 check and queen h7 mates. So after king h1 suddenly that's all. It's time to resign. So now Wensley have understood everything, of course, but it's too late. His last chance to be on the game was to play knight f4. Okay, probably he was, but maybe even losing. But okay, it's not so simple for Dominguez. So after king h1, that's total finish. So he played knight h4, desperation, rook takes h4, g6, mate on h7, takes h5, he resides. So excellent victory for Dominguez in very complicated game. So congratulations to Richard and congratulations to Lanier, and we will see together final matches. Somebody g6 instead of knight h4. G6 instead of knight h4, I think rook e2 is simply. Yes. rook e2 and then rook takes g2. Not difficult. G6 could not. Maybe even rook d2 is possible, but okay, rook e2 is more simple. This also means, looks like. Okay, even white has pleasant choice. I want to ask if somebody knows. Here knight f4. Okay, rook takes f2. Knight takes d3. Rook takes f8. And piece up. Or after rook d2, knight f4. Okay, same. Rook f2 and rook takes f8. So this piece up that will win without any difficulties. Okay, I have a question if somebody knows who is playing against whom in final matches. There are 4 players qualified, and which matches we will see. Aronian against Dominguez. And Nakamura against Rapport. So they will play tomorrow, right? Or after tomorrow? Somebody knows. Tomorrow. Okay, so. But tomorrow. No rest day. Tomorrow I'm not sure that I can comment because I'm planning to play in Chess.com tournament. Okay, so we'll see. Okay, but okay. So for today I explained what was happened in those such interesting matches. So it's time to rest, at least in Ukraine. So goodbye.